Yes. Okay. Firstly, today I'll tell you something about the lecture that I'm going to give. Firstly, the format. So I'm going to change the format a little. Whenever I'm teaching a conceptual subject, I usually go with a bilingual format. That means I'll be speaking in English, but also I'll be translating certain technical or important parts so that it is easier for people, for everyone to understand. That is why I'll be translating certain parts in Hindi as well. Firstly, the structure of this lecture today. First of all, we'll be discussing a little bit about the origin of not contracts, but the Indian Contract Act 1872. After that, we'll move to offers. Then, after discussing offers definition under section 2A, we'll move on to what is an essential or what are the essentials of an offer with cases, and then we'll move on to what are the types of an offer. After discussing that, we'll discuss acceptance under section 2B of the Indian Contract Act, and then its essentials respect. uh, Firstly, about the origin of this Indian Contract Act 1872. Before 1872, or in the 1800s, or even before that, when East India Company was ruling much of our territories, the contract or the contract law was majorly governed by personal law of a person. For example, if there's a Hindu, he'll be governed by Hindu law of commerce. If there's a Muslim, he'll be governed by Muslim law of commerce. Whatever the scriptures or whatever the interpretations of the scripture in Muslim or Hindu law said. But whenever there used to be a plaintiff, यानी कि अगर दो persons हैं आपके सामने, plaintiff or defendant, that is, you have a plaintiff and a defendant and they have a contractual dispute, and one of them is a Hindu, the other is a Muslim, they had to go with the law of the defendant. That is, जो भी defendant law follow कर रहा है, मान लीजिए कि अगर defendant मुस्लिम है और plaintiff हिंदू है, तो वो मुस्लिम लॉ के हिसाब से हमारी इंग्लिश कोर्ट्स जाती थी. बट देन जब भी इस केस का, और वेन एवर दिस केस वॉज अपील्ड अगेंस्ट, कि किसी को अगर नहीं जजमेंट पसंद आए तो वो अपील कर रहे हैं, दी इंग्लिश जजेस, they would just hold their heads and they would be confused as to how to interpret it or how to see through it or how to uh, deliver justice. Now, with that problem that they were facing, they decided that let's make one act which is uniform to each and everyone. That is, एक एक्ट या एक लॉ बनाया जाए जो सब पे बराबर लगे. ऐसा ना हो कि अकॉर्डिंग टू पार्टीज उनके पर्सनल लॉज लगे या फिर कोई कस्टम ही इंटायरली लगने लग जाए. सो what they wanted was, what the English wanted was a standardization of the commercial law or the contractual law. With that in mind, they composed, or they constituted a law commission, and which was the British Law Commission. It was the third British Law Commission at that time, and finally, in 1st September 1872, this particular law, that is the Indian Contract Act, was enacted, or it was brought into force after their discussions. And another fact which is to be noted is that the evidence law, that is the Indian Evidence Act 1872, had the, or has the same date of enforcement. Now, after we have discussed the origin, that the origin was in a confusion that they had between personal laws and in understanding personal laws, the English judges, which led to eventually coming of the Indian Contract Act 1872, let's discuss our first topic. Our first topic is offer. It is said that offer is the starting point of an agreement. यानी कि ऑफर जो है वो एक अग्रीमेंट का स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट है, यानी कि वो एक स्पार्क है जो एक अग्रीमेंट को लीड करता है. नेक्स्ट, ऑफर हैज बीन डिफाइंड इन section 2A of the Indian Contract Act 1872. Now, I sometimes I get questions that what is proposal then? Because the definition of proposal. See, offer and a proposal under the Indian Contract Act, they both are the same thing. Hence, whenever they say offer or whenever they say proposal, these terms are interchangeably used. Okay, now let's go forward with the definition of what is an offer. Okay. Yes, under section 2, if you have your Bare Acts, please, I would recommend that that you open up the Bare Acts, and then you will be able to understand this better. Okay. When one person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. Now, this all of this sounds clearly very technical, so I'll just simply translate it. कहते हैं कि जब एक person signify करता है, signify यानी कि दर्शाता है, यानी कि कुछ भी करके वो दूसरे को communicate कर रहा है. उसके बाद to another, दूसरे person कोई करेगा, no one can offer himself of a certain thing and then accept it. That is just foolish to think in a commercial transaction. उसके बाद it says to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything. So ये जो particular phrase है, ये बताता है हमारी consideration या फिर एक जो काम करने वाले हैं उसके दो पहलू. First वो कहता है I am willing to do something, और या फिर I will abstain यानी कि मैं कुछ नहीं करूंगा. So he can make an offer regarding that. Next, with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such act or abstinence. जो इसका लास्ट लाइन है वो बता देता है कि हमारा अल्टीमेट ऑब्जेक्ट क्या है. अल्टीमेट ऑब्जेक्ट इज नॉट के अगले को हमने वेग आइडिया देना है व्हाट आई एम सेलिंग और व्हाटएवर. नो नो नो, यू हैव टू और यू वांट टू गेट हिज असेंट, यानी कि वो हाँ बोल दे हमारी ऑफर को, जो भी हम ऑफर कर रहे हैं. अब वो ऑफर could be willing to, or an offer person could be willing to do something or abstaining to do something. It could be either. So now that we have translate or gotten a translation of this particular definition, let's move on to what are the most important essentials of an offer, and we'll be discussing that with cases. The very first essential that we are taught in our contract act class, or whenever the topic proposal is going on, is that there must be an intention to create legal relations. This is something which is sort of automatic in nature, के ये तो हम assume करके ही चलते हैं. Why? Because whenever we are dealing with a subject such as commercial law or contract act, we presume that whatever offer is kept is legal or wants to create a legal relations with another person. लीगल रिलेशंस का मतलब है कोई ऐसे ताल्लुकात जो कानून यानी कि यहाँ पे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट रिकॉग्नाइज करता है. पहले तो हम डिस्कस करेंगे बैल्फोर वर्सेस बैल्फोर का केस. फर्स्ट वी डिस्कसिंग बैल्फोर वर्सेस बैल्फोर. थ्रू दैट वील अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज intention not to create legal relations, and then we'll understand what our intention to create legal relations and what cases fall into that. Balfour versus Balfour is the topmost case when we are discussing that, or when we say that certain arrangements, such as when your friend says, I'll take you to a movie, your father says, if you be a good boy, I'll buy you a car, things like that. See, all these are social arrangements. They are not exactly contractual in nature. So, on the same line, we'll discuss Balfour versus Balfour. So, in Balfour versus Balfour, what happened was that a husband had to go to a job, and his job was in Ceylon. Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka. So, he got his posting in Ceylon, and he had to leave England. His wife, however, unfortunately could not leave with him since she was not well. So in order to, कहते हैं कि अपनी वाइफ का दिल रखने के लिए, he said कि I'll send you 30 pounds periodically. That is, it's like a promise that, since I love you, I'll pay you periodically this amount of 30 pounds. So when he went to Ceylon, no or none of the payments arrived. On seeing that, the wife, what she did was she filed a case that before the court that this is a breach of a contract. Now, when judges saw this, the first thing that they noticed were like, okay, uh, let's look at it in a in very simple terms. See, contract usually involves, or trade or commerce usually involves quid pro quo. That is some for another. They said to the wife that, okay, husband is giving you 30 pounds and he's promising to give you 30 pounds. That is fine. But in return, what are you giving to the husband? Is it something real or is it something illusory? Wife had no answer on that because she just said, okay, he's just paying me because I give him love and affection. And love affection is something which is illusory, and hence when she said that, the court held that this particular incident or this particular let's say promise is not or does not have the intention to create legal relations. Why? Because there is no quid pro quo, firstly, and it is made entirely out of love and affection. It is like a social arrangement. It has no intention or of a commercial nature. Okay. When this particular case or this particular case was there, पीपल स्टार्टेड टेकिंग, और लोगों ने इसको गलत तरीके से लेना शुरू कर दिया कि अच्छा, अगर कोई हस्बैंड वाइफ है, अगर कोई फैमिली मेंबर है, दे कैन नेवर बी अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट और दे कैन नेवर बी अ लीगल रिलेशन अमंग्स देम. बट इट इज नॉट अबाउट द रिलेशन बट रादर द नेचर ऑफ द ट्रांजैक्शन. जैसे कि इन बाल्फर वर्सेस बाल्फर नेचर वाज के सिंस आई एम योर वाइफ, सिंस मैं तुम्हारी बीवी हूं, you have to pay me this money. So this is not a intent, or this is not a transaction of a legal nature. But in McGregor versus McGregor, when husband and wife had a deal that wife will withdraw all complaints against the husband, and in return he will pay her certain allowance. Here it was held that withdrawing complaints, and this was like a compromise deed. So when this came forward, it was held by the court that this is a contract, or this is a transaction of a legal nature or a commercial nature, because there is what? Quid pro quo, something in return for other or another. So you get the difference that wherever things like quid pro quo, that is consideration, यानी कि कुछ के बदले कुछ, and कुछ वो should not be illusory, या फिर कोई ऐसा नहीं होनी चाहिए कि which we cannot touch, or let's say love, affection, etc., but it should be something real. So whenever there is something real in nature and there is a quid pro quo regarding things, there is an intention to create a legal or commercial relation in or under contract act. So that was our first essential, that there must be what? Intention to create legal or commercial relations. Second part, or the second essential, talks about something which is very fundamental, or talks about something जो कि हम सबसे पहले ही discuss कर रहे हैं under the Indian contract or under the definition. In our definition, we said that when one person signifies his willingness to another. So let's stop on this term, signifies. With that in mind, we come to our second essential, which is that there must be, or offer must be, communicated. See, if something, or if I want to sell something, if A wants to sell a pen to B, but he's only keeping it in his mind and he's not telling B, how can there ever be an offer? B cannot assume an offer from the perspective of an A. There has to be something. It could be oral, it could be written, it could also be by conduct, but there has to be something. So hence first part is that there must be communication. If there is no communication, I am just keeping in my head, or I am just keeping it in my mind that I have a or that I have this, I want to sell something, and I expect the other to, tell me, okay, I want to buy this, and I'll just agree to it. That does not make sense. So first thing is that there must be communication. Now, coming to the second part, or the third essential. The third essential is that the offer must be certain and definite. Offers, or whenever we are talking about commercial relations or commercial law, vague things or words do not have any value. For example, I am saying to my friend that I was thinking of selling this to some other person, maybe if someone is interested. See, again, the vagueness of this sentence does not make any sense. Do I want to sell it to B? Yes. But what am I saying? I'm making communication, but what am I saying is entirely or in its nature vague. So, as per the essential, if the terms or the communication is vague in nature, it will not be an offer. You have to be certain, you have to be definite. Okay, then coming to the next part is that an offer must be distinguished from an invitation to offer. Now we are faced with this confusion. ये confusion है कि invitation to offer क्या चीज है, or as they say in many books, invitation to treat. What is this? Invitation, simply said, is a certain invite sent by one person for what? For offers. That it is not that I am offering you. It is rather a tempting notion of, or an act of temptation that other offers me. For example, whenever you go out in the market and you see sale, it sounds pretty tempting. And what does that sale mean? That sale, or that particular price which has been mentioned there, it is just an invitation to offer. Regarding invitation to offer, there are many cases. So let's just first discuss the most important case, which is uh, that is a London boot cash chemist versus Great Britain pharmaceuticals. So this is what has been referred to in Contract Act as the catalog case or the catalog price case. In this case, what happened was that there was a self-service store. वो एक ऐसा स्टोर था जिससे आप खुद चीजें उठा सकते हैं, और एक कैटलॉग, दैट इज अ कैटलॉग of prices, a listing of prices has been provided on the board. So here our plaintiff, he just happens to pick one of those goods up, and he or the medicines up, and then he goes to the cash counter. The cash counter guy tells him, okay, brother, the price has been revised, यानी कि प्राइस अब चेंज हो चुका है, इसका प्राइस ज्यादा है, आपको ज्यादा देना पड़ेगा. Then he objected कि अरे catalog mentions something else, or catalog has a lower price and you're telling me that you're selling at a higher price. Seeing this कि price ज़्यादा है, he filed a case against the chemist. Now there court said that whenever there is a display of goods, or whenever there is a catalog of prices laid down, it is not in the nature of an offer. That means के ये नहीं है कि आपने जब मेडिसिन बाय कर ली और पकड़ा दी उसको कि हाँ ये खरीदना चाहता हूं, तो वो एक्सेप्टेंस है. नो, दैट इज रादर एन ऑफर, एंड द कैटलॉग इज an invitation to offer, or as we discussed earlier, it is an invitation to treat. Now another case which comes to my mind is another famous case, that is Harvey versus Fassy. Harvey versus Fassy is also known as the bumper hall pen case. In this, what happened was there was this to the plaintiff, and which was later cleared by the court. The question was whether quoting of the lowest price, that is जब एक आदमी कह रहा है कि कम से कम तो मेरा इतना तो मुझे लग जाता है. Sometimes we hear sellers saying that. Whenever he says that, does that constitute the final price in itself? Does that constitute an offer in itself? That was the question. In this case, our plaintiff, he said that, okay, I want a bumper hall pen, and kindly quote the price, or he said this, I want this, and please tell me what is the price. What the bumper hall pen company or the defendant replied was that the lowest price for this much amount of bumper hall pens is 800 pounds. Now the plaintiff, he replied that, okay, I want this much amount in or for 800 pounds. Now when the pen company or the pen company ने इसको deliver करने से मना कर दिया, because they were like, we were just quoting the lowest price, the plaintiff who ordered these pens, he filed a case. Now when he filed the case, the court noticed that quoting the lowest price is not in the nature of an offer, or is not in the nature of a definite offer, but it is just a discussion. What is the discussion about? Is that a person is quoting lowest price. Why? क्यों वो कोट कर रहा है? कम से कम मेरे को इतना लग जाएगा, because he wants the other person, यानी कि जो खरीदने वाला है वो उसे कह रहा है कि आप इससे ज्यादा, यानी कि इससे ज्यादा कुछ अमाउंट ऑफर करो. He is just laying down an expectation. Hence, ये जो communication है, that is, I want this particular pens for 800 pounds, and the other person says, okay, I can't deliver that much, I was just quoting lowest price. All this discussion does not amount to an offer. It only is a discussion, and hence there was no contract in this case. So we see that specificity, or being definite, or being certain, has a lot of weightage when it comes to contracts. Okay. Coming to the next essential of offer is that there must be willingness to do or abstain from doing anything. So I simply explained it earlier that an offer cannot go further without certain thing, or without having a certain objective, or without having a certain act or a mission which you are going to perform or do. Without that, it is empty. Just like in the case of Balfour versus Balfour, which we discussed earlier. Then coming to the next part is that with a view to obtain the assent of other. Lastly, what it reflects is that the ultimate object of an offer is so that के person दूसरा हाँ कर दे, that the other person gives assent. Now, keep this word assent in mind. Why do we keep this word assent in mind? Is because this will come, or this will be discussed further in acceptance. But before that, let's discuss what are the different types of offers. Type is very generic. That is what you call a specific offer. So when A offers B that I will sell you this pen, so the offer is specific. Why? Because A सिर्फ B को बेच रहा है. He is not telling C, or he is not telling D that I want you to buy this pen. No, he's not. He is just specifically selling it to B. Hence, it becomes a specific offer. So the offer that A gives B is specific in nature, and third person cannot come and just accept it. Next is a general offer. General offer is something which is, as per Salmond, he said that general offer is an offer given to public at large. Now, what is an offer given to public at large is that now what we see prevalent is a general offer, that whenever a person is selling goods at, let's say, a ready or in a shop normally, the product, or whenever the customer buys a product, he is accepting a general offer which is available to everyone, which is available to public at large. Now, let's understand this with a case. The case is very famous case of Carlyle versus Carbolic smoke ball. We studied this case in our first year. We studied this in coming to when we are studying Contract Act, or initially we studied this. Why? Because this is a case where prize was promised and the lady wanted to gain the prize. But let's before that understand its whole story. So a lady goes to a shop, buys this product called smoke ball. So what was the purpose of smoke ball is that whenever you consume that smoke ball, जब भी आप उस smoke ball को अपने माउस के अंदर रखते हैं तो वो एक स्मोक एमिट करेगा. और प्रॉमिस ये था कंपनी का, स्मोक बॉल वाली कंपनी का, कि जब ये होगा उसके बाद आपको कभी भी फ्लू, कॉमन कोल्ड जिसको कहते हैं, या इन्फ्लुएंजा नहीं होगा. दैट वाज द promise by the company, and they also had a certain amount in a bank so that if someone still catches flu, he can or she can get that amount. Now what happened with this lady was she bought that particular good, she used it, but still she contracted influenza, and consequently she approached the company that okay, अब मेरे को देखो मैंने यूज किया, स्टिल मेरे को कॉमन कोल्ड हो गया, अब आप मेरे को प्राइस दें. कंपनी रिफ्यूज्ड, कंपनी ने मना कर दिया. नाउ व्हेन she brought a case against the company, what happened was the company's first argument was that okay, there was no offer between us. Okay, they said that okay, she did not directly approach us, she did not directly buy it or directly approach the company. There was no communication between the company and the lady, hence it's not a specific offer, and hence it is no offer. Or the when offer ही नहीं हुआ तो आगे जाके contract कैसे हो गया? That was their point. To this court replied that see, whenever you are giving or giving out your goods to shopkeepers, to chemists, and a person buys that, they have just accepted a general offer. Just like in present times, अंबानी को सबके पास नहीं जाना पड़ता अपना सिम देने के लिए, और सबको ये नहीं होता कि directly I bought my Jio SIM from Mukesh Ambani. Just like that, whenever a general offer is there and the party accepts that, the person who has given out the offer is bound by the same, and hence यहाँ पे भी यही हुआ. The lady got the money or got the prize money because the court directed it so. Why? Because it was a general offer and it was accepted by the lady. The moment it was accepted and the moment she still contracted influenza, she had a prize, or she was she deserved a compensation. So with that general offer, I think we have discussed, but I think we're running out of time, so we'll start again, right? Okay, next we'll just be discussing, after we discuss specific offers, general offer, we'll be discussing cross offers, we'll be discussing counter offers. Also, we'll be discussing the standing open and continuing offers. All right. Yes, let's begin, or let's continue with the discussion that we were having earlier. After discussing general and specific offers, we come to a certain situation called a cross offer. So, cross offer is when the offers made by two persons to each other containing similar terms of bargain cross each other in the post. इसको हिंदी में समझाता हूँ. Whenever दो पर्सन यानी कि दो व्यक्तियों ने जब एक दूसरे को ऑफर ऐसा किया है जिसके टर्म्स बिल्कुल सेम है, और वो क्या होता है, वो एक लेटर बॉक्स में क्रॉस हो जाता है. एग्जाम्पल, ए वांट्स टू सेल हिज फोन फॉर 10,000 टू बी. ए अपना फोन 10,000 में बी को बेचना चाहता है, बी ए का फोन 10,000 में खरीदना चाहता है. तो होता क्या है कि ए बी को खत लिख रहा है और बी ए को खत लिख रहा है सेम टर्म्स के रिगार्डिंग और सेम चीज खरीदने के रिगार्डिंग. व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि जब ये लोग एक दूसरे को लेटर लिखते हैं, इट क्रॉसेस, और इन द पोस्ट दे हैव क्रॉस्ड, यानी कि वो पोस्ट के अंदर दोनों सेम लेटर पड़े हैं. सवाल ये आता है, और द क्वेश्चन इज दैट whether this thing happening in itself becomes an offer and an acceptance or not. Regarding this particular position, the English court answered it in Tin versus Hoffman. For those people who are writing, it is TINN versus HOFFMAN. This is a case which comes in judiciary exams a lot, so it is very important to know that. Tin versus Hoffman was the same case and the same question was posed. Court answered that whenever two letters cross each other in the post, they do not having the same terms, they do not itself, or that does not itself mean that there has been offer and there has been an acceptance. The or both the parties will have to separately accept the offers. यानी कि जब ए को बी का लेटर पहुंचेगा, बी को ए का लेटर पहुंचेगा, जब वो लेटर पहुंचने के बाद वो एक्सेप्ट करेंगे, यानी कि दूसरे का लेटर मेरे पास आने के बाद जब मैं एक्सेप्ट करूंगा तभी वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बनेगा, अदरवाइज वो नहीं है. Otherwise, merely two offers crossing each other in a post box does not make or conclude a contract in itself. So that was the answer regarding cross offer. Now, coming to a very important topic, which is what we call a counter offer. As in India, which simply stated is based bargaining, because Indian markets mein bargaining is like an essential of shopping. That whenever someone is bargaining, they sort of consider themselves as, that pata nahi kya teer maar liya. So counter offer is a similar concept. In counter offer, what happens is that if A makes an offer to B, what B does is he makes another offer in return. I'll give you an example. For example, if A, or let's say here the shopkeeper in sector 17, he tells a person that, sir, this coat I will sell for 3,000. What is this? This is an offer, correct? Now, जो हमारा B है, or B who is the customer, he says to that shopkeeper, yeah, the suit is fine, suit अच्छा है, but give that to me in rupees 1,500. Now, what has happened here is that there has been no offer or acceptance. There was an offer, and then the other person, that is a B, in reply made another offer, which we call a counter offer. On this case, on this particular type of offer, Hyde versus Wrench is the landmark case, and please do read that. It's a very important case, and it is on similar terms, that whenever an offer or another offer is made in reply of an already stated offer, it is called certain thing as a counter offer. Now, another thing regarding counter offer is that question that arises is that, okay, let's say कि A says to B कि मैं ये 500 में बेचूंगा. B tells A नहीं मैं 400 में खरीदूंगा. Then A कहता है नहीं अब तो मैं 600 में बेचूंगा. Question is that whether B, that is the customer, whether on the fear कि अब तो 600 प्राइस हो गया, पहले तो 500 बोल रहा था, क्या वो ऑटोमेटिकली वो 500 वाले ऑफर को एक्सेप्ट करके कह सकता है अब तो हो गया डन? The answer to that is no. He will have to separately revive that earlier offer which was countered. तो होता क्या है कि when एक ऑफर के जवाब में काउंटर आ जाता है ना, तो वो काउंटर ऑफर ही स्टैंडिंग होता है. तो काउंटर के पहले वाला या फिर पुराने वाले ऑफर को अलग से रिवाइव करना पड़ता है. इट डज नॉट ऑटोमेटिकली रिवाइव, और बी कैन नॉट ऑटोमेटिकली से नहीं यार वो 500 वाला दे दे, ठीक है. अब जब तक ए, दैट इज अ शॉपकीपर, नहीं एग्री करेगा तब तक वो पुराना ऑफर ऑटोमेटिकली रिवाइव नहीं होगा. सो दिस इज द डिस्कशन रिगार्डिंग काउंटर ऑफर. नाउ regarding this these particular types of offers, there are questions which are objective in nature and जो आ जाते हैं टेंडर के रिगार्डिंग आ जाते हैं और दूसरी चीजों के रिगार्डिंग आ जाते हैं. So this is what we call a standing, open और continuing offer. ये तीनों थोड़े थोड़े डिफरेंट तरह के ऑफर्स हैं. स्टैंडिंग ऑफर को सबसे पहले डिस्कस करते हैं. स्टैंडिंग ऑफर इज अ पर्टिकुलर ऑफर वेयर either a place constraint or a time constraint. For example, if A tells you that, okay, you want to or you're interested in buying this good, you can buy that, but the offer only stays for 10 days. So what happens? The offer is standing or offer is open for only 10 days, and after 10 days, offer lapses. So that is what we call a standing open or standing or open offers. They depend on a certain factor, and when that certain factor is not there, they will lapse. Again, when there is, let's say, कोई time or no time has been specified, in that case, जब कोई time specified नहीं हुआ, but गुड का नेचर यानी कि जो आप सेल कर रहे हैं उसका नेचर ऐसा है कि वो खराब हो जाएगा एक दिन में, देन आप रीजनेबल टाइम को अज्यूम करके चलते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई हैव कार्टन ऑफ मैंगोज एंड आई वांट टू सेल बी दैट, एंड आई टेल बी के आप आ जाओ, कोई बात नहीं, आप जब मर्जी आ जाओ. बी कम्स आफ्टर 30 days. नाउ बी विल टेल मी कि ओके, आपने तो कहा था जब मर्जी आ जाओ. बट आंसर टू दैट इन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट इज दैट whenever time has not been specified, we assume what? Reasonable time. Now the question regarding auctions is कि what is an auction? क्या auction और एक auction का एक या फिर tender का itself एक advertisement, is that an offer in itself? That is the question. That आपको अगर न्यूज़पेपर पे दिख गया कि टेंडर है या गवर्नमेंट वांट सर्टेन थिंग्स एंड इज दैट एन ऑफर इन इटसेल्फ, और what is that in what is specifically that called in law? See, if you read something or read about an auction or a tender or invitation to a tender and offer, it is not in a newspaper, it is not an offer. It is only what? An invitation to offer. तो इसी के साथ मुझे एक केस याद आता है जिसके अंदर what happened was कि a person wanted to go to an auction and he purchased the bus ticket. He went to that location and वहां जाके he found out कि auction तो cancel हो गई है. So he sued the auction or the auctioneer or the auction wali company for damages of that. He should be able to gain back his the expenses of his ticket and travel expenses, etc., etc. Court said that whenever there's an invitation to an auction, it is not to be, or it is not to be assumed that is an offer in itself. It is not. Hence, whenever we are talking about auctions or tenders, they are just invitation to treat. So we are to keep that separate. Now coming to continuing offers. Continuing offers finds its best example in the case of Bengal Coal Company versus Homi Wadia. So in that, what happened was that defendant agree to supply a certain amount of coal to the plaintiffs up to a certain quantity at an agreed price for a period of 12 months. So basically उनका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ये था कि आप मुझे बताते रहें क्वांटिटीज, 12 महीने के पीरियड तक मैं आपको उस हिसाब से सप्लाई करता रहूंगा और उस हिसाब से प्राइस चार्ज करता रहूंगा. सो यहाँ पे यू कैन सी दैट इवन दो ऑफर इज नॉट that certain or that definite in nature, but then it is a continuing offer. Why? Because it continues over a period of time. Jaise aaj, if the demand is of 1 ton of coal, he will charge accordingly. Other day demand is of 2 tons of coal, he'll charge accordingly. So they had a set price already for as per the measurement that itna ton kitna price hoga. They had all that discussed. So in continuing offer, what happens is instead of a one time thing, they have small offers continuing over a period of time, and that is what happened in Bengal Coal Company versus Homi Wadia. With that, the topic offer under section 2A comes to an end, and if you have any questions, you can please pose them either right now or either after the session. I am not aware of the specific rules as to that. Now, coming to the next topic that we have, the next topic is acceptance. Acceptance, as they say, is defined under section 2B. So first we'll study, or first we'll read that out. Under section 2B of the Indian Contract Act, when the person to whom proposal is made signifies his assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. So if you remember the definition contract, if you remember definition under 2A of the Indian Contract Act, आपको वो वर्ड असेंट याद होगा और आप ये देखेंगे कि सेम वर्ड असेंट हैज बीन यूज्ड हियर। तो कहता है कि व्हेन द पर्सन जिसको प्रपोजल दिया गया है, यानी कि कौन हो गया वो हमारा ऑफरी, कौन जिसको ऑफर दिया गया था, जब वो ऑफर को असेंट यानी कि उसको हाँ कह देगा, देन अ ऑफर और अ प्रपोजल इज said to be accepted. बट इसमें एक प्रॉब्लम है। प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि इट इज नॉट बीइंग मोर स्पेसिफिक अबाउट व्हाट इज एन एक्सेप्टेंस। फॉर दैट थोड़ा सा हमें गाइडेंस ऑफ सेक्शन 7 एंड सेक्शन 8 भी लेना पड़ता है, बट वील डिस्कस दैट लेटर ऑन। बिफोर दैट वील बी डिस्कसिंग all the essentials of what is an acceptance. So just like we discussed in offer, the first essential or the most important essential is that acceptance यानी कि जो आपने हाँ कहना है, it must be communicated. Why? Because आप अगर privately या mentally accept कर लें किसी चीज को, that is not treated as an acceptance in Indian Contract Act. In commerce, these types of acceptances in the mind or private acceptance, they don't work. You have to communicate them. Ab communicate, you may communicate it orally in written or by conduct, but you have to communicate it. That is the first essential. Discussing that, what the rule is that there must be an overt act which should signify an acceptance, just like in offer, that there must be communication. Communication must be through an act or conduct or anything, but it must be communicated. Now the case which is relevant here is Brogden versus Railway Metro Company. In this case, what happened was, a person, he had an offer which he was interested in accepting or agreeing to. So what he did was, he had the offer document, he signed on it signifying his acceptance, but he kept it in his locked drawer. ट्रांसलेट करते हैं इसको, हुआ क्या कि एक आदमी को एक ऑफर आया कागज पे, उसको लगा ये बहुत अच्छा है, और उस पे करना क्या था, सिर्फ साइन करना था। साइन तो उसने कर दिया, लेकिन साइन करने के बाद ना, इंस्टेड ऑफ पोस्टिंग इट, उसने उसे अपने ड्रॉर में रख लिया। क्वेश्चन वाज कि क्या ये प्राइवेट एक्ट, बिकॉज सी दिस इज अ प्राइवेट एक्ट, ही हैज नॉट publicly accepted it, or he has not communicated, this is just a private act keeping it in a drawer. तो क्या ये private act, does it constitute acceptance or not? That was the question. Court said that whenever there is a private or there is a mental act of acceptance, it is not treated as acceptance under section 2B of the Indian Contract Act. Why? Because as we discussed earlier, there has to be an overt act, यानी कि हमने दूसरे को बताना है, जिसने हमें ऑफर किया उसे बताना है कि हमें आपका ऑफर मंजूर है, नॉट दैट कि हम अपने मन में ही उसे रख लें. So that was the point. Another essential of the same thing is that communication must be to the offerer himself, और ऑफरर कोई होनी चाहिए जिसने ऑफर दिया है, यानी कि जो ऑफर दे रहा है, दैट इज द ऑफरर, उसी को ही कम्युनिकेशन होनी चाहिए, किसी थर्ड पर्सन को नहीं बताना. Easily I'll explain it to you in an example is that, for example, मैं किसी पर्सन ए उसके ऑफर में इंटरेस्टेड हूं और मैं ये चीज सी को बता देता हूं, डज दैट constitute as an acceptance? No. If I have to communicate my acceptance, I have to tell it to the person who made the offer, and अगर मैंने उसे नहीं बताया, that will not be treated as communication. इसके लिए we always mention or always study this case of Feldhaus versus Bindley. Feldhaus versus Bindley, what happened was that an uncle told his nephew or wrote a letter to his nephew that I want your horse in pounds, specific pounds is, I consider it mine at 33 pounds, and if I hear no more about it, that I will consider mine. What it means is that if अगर आपने इस लेटर का जवाब नहीं किया और इस लेटर का जवाब अगर आपने नहीं दिया तो मैं ये अपना जो आपका हॉर्स है उसे अपना ही समझूंगा। तो क्वेश्चन वॉज कि क्या किसी का मेरली चुप रहना ये भी एक एक्सेप्टेंस हो जाएगा? क्या आप अज्यूम कर सकते हैं एक्सेप्टेंस? दैट वाज द क्वेश्चन। सो इन दैट केस व्हाट हैपेंड वाज कि नेफ्यू जो था, यानी कि जो उसका भांजा था, भतीजा था, आई डोंट नो इंग्लिश में दे आर यूजिंग द सेम थिंग, ऑन रीडिंग दिस लेटर उसको लगा कि आई मस्ट सेल दिस हॉर्स टू माय अंकल, बट उसने और ही डिड नॉट रिप्लाई टू दैट लेटर। उसने उस लेटर का रिप्लाई नहीं किया। इंस्टेड उसने अपने ना ऑक्शनियर को बताया, यार मैं सोच रहा हूँ मैं अंकल को दे दूं। सो आप देख सकते हैं कि मेरी पुरानी एग्जाम्पल के साथ रिलेट हो रहा है कि वो एक थर्ड पर्सन को बता देता है कि मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि मैं अंकल को ना ये अपना हॉर्स दे दूं। अब ऑक्शनियर क्या करता है? ऑक्शनियर गलती से हॉर्स को कहीं और बेच देता है, गलती से, बाय मिस्टेक। बट अंकल ऑन नोइंग दैट फैक्ट के हॉर्स हैज बीन sold to some other person and on non reply as per my letter मेरे को हॉर्स मिलना चाहिए था, वो एक केस फाइल कर देते हैं। तो कोर्ट का इस चीज पे जवाब था कि सी whenever there is no reply or there is no communication from the potential acceptor, you cannot treat is treat it as an acceptance, यानी कि उसको आप एक्सेप्टेंस नहीं मानेंगे। नेफ्यू ने रिप्लाई नहीं किया, सी उसने बोला, अपना माइंड बोला, ऑक्शनियर को बोला, थर्ड पर्सन को बोला, किसको नहीं बोला? जो ऑफर दे रहा था। तो ऑफर दे रहा था जब उसको कम्युनिकेट नहीं हुआ तो मतलब क्या नहीं हुई? एक्सेप्टेंस नहीं हुई। तो यहाँ पे हेंस जब एक्सेप्टेंस नहीं हुई तो अंकल का कोई हक नहीं है, यहाँ हैज नो राइट ओवर द हॉर्स। देन नेक्स्ट एसेंशियल इज दैट कम्युनिकेशन मस्ट बी बाय एक्सेप्टर एंड एक्सेप्टर ओनली, यानी कि जो एक्सेप्ट कर रहा है वही कम्युनिकेट करेगा और कोई नहीं कम्युनिकेट करेगा एक्सेप्टर की जगह, अनलेस वो उसका रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है। या वो तो सेम रूल अप्लाई होता है सब पे, दैट यू नो इफ योर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव इज देयर और समथिंग लाइक दैट देन दे मे कम्युनिकेट, बट अदरवाइज कोई थर्ड पर्सन कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर सकता। इस पॉइंट को वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड थ्रू पावल वर्सेस ली। इसको हेडमास्टर केस भी कहा जाता है। इन दिस व्हाट हैपेंड वाज दैट a person applied for a headmaster post interview, and in the interview the board liked him. They were like, okay, he's a good guy and all that. Now there was another fact with that ke amongst the members of the board there was one person who happened to be friend of the interviewee, that is the person who gave the interview, uska wo friend tha. So what that person did was, whenever he met up with his friend for a chat, he told him that, okay, you know, they really liked you and um, you'll be accepted as the headmaster. But next day when that person who gave the interview, when he went to the school, he read on the notice that, you know, someone else has been appointed as a headmaster. He was very enraged. उसे बहुत गुस्सा आया, उसने केस फाइल कर दिया। Now case में he stated that one of the members of the board, since he was my friend, he communicated to me that the school board was interested in hiring, or you know, they wanted to hire me. The question was, will this part be treated as acceptance or not? Now on that, court held that whenever a person in his private capacity or in his capacity as a friend tells an or a person who is an offerer something or that particular fact, that will not be treated as an official communication. Why? Because official communication or the acceptor or the potential acceptor here is the board. It is not one man in his capacity as a friend. यानी कि अगर आपको acceptance सिर्फ board की तरफ से आई है, that is the official acceptor, only then it is a contract, otherwise it is not. So in this case, when he claimed that he should be appointed as a headmaster, it was rejected by the court. Why? Because the missing essential was that communication was not there by the acceptor himself. Who was the acceptor? The board. कौन था acceptor? Board था यहाँ पे। तो board अगर उसे कहता, ऑफिशियल कम्युनिकेशन देता कि हाँ आपको एक्सेप्ट कर लिया गया है, आपकी एप्लीकेशन हैज बीन एक्सेप्टेड, तभी इट वाज एन एक्सेप्टेंस, अदरवाइज इट वाज नॉट. Coming to the next part of this or you know, next question of this argument or of this particular topic is that how should an acceptance be made? That is, how should it be framed? To that, there is an essential which comes from section 7, that acceptance should be absolute and unqualified. It's a very important point to understand that. Why? Because if, let's say, A tells B that I want you to buy this pen, and B says, yes, I agree, but you will have to do this first. Is that an acceptance? No, it is not. Why? Because acceptance is only there when it is absolute and unqualified. By absolute and unqualified, I mean there should be no if, no but. There should be no preconditions to a particular acceptance. अगर आपने preconditions लगा दी, then उसका असर ही होगा कि वो rather acceptance होने की बजाय एक counter offer ही बन जाएगा, which we discussed earlier. So section 7 provides that in order to convert a proposal into a promise, the acceptance must be absolute and unqualified. That is, without qualification or without condition. Why is that? Is because of the principle of consensus ad idem. That is, the mind of both the parties must match. And the acceptor must unequivocally state his acceptance. He must not be vague in stating his acceptance. He must be unequivocal. He must be clear. He must be definite. He must be certain. And if he is not, that will not be treated as an acceptance. As we discussed in our earlier example, that when A said to B that, okay, I want you this, and B said, okay, I'll buy this, but. So whenever this but starts, this is beginning of a counter offer rather than an acceptance in itself. Now the question is that whenever we have acceptance, or whenever we have this particular incident where acceptance is in question in case of absolute and unqualified, is there a marker or is there a specific communication that should be made? Answer to that is that, again, acceptance, absolute, unqualified, could be made in any form, but just that it should be communicated. That is the only point. Communication could be by oral, could be in writing, or could also be by conduct. By conduct, if I give you an example, it is simply when, let's say, a bus stops, you climb onto the bus, and when the TT comes, you don't tell him, okay, what is your offer? No. When you are sitting in the bus, that means in itself that you want to go somewhere. So this is an example of a conduct. Again, when a seller is selling something and he just hands you over the good, you just take the good and hand him over the money. So again, even though there has been no oral or written communication here, it is still a valid contract. So hence, as to specific communication, there are no certain restriction that it should only be oral or it should only be written. With that, this lecture comes to an end. And if you have any questions, please, you may pose them. Yes, please, the host, if you could intervene. Okay. In case of, sir, where will the jurisdiction lie in case of breach of contract? See, regarding jurisdiction, wherever the breach has been committed, that is where the cause of action arises. That is generally where the jurisdiction will lie. But if we are talking about, see, contract has general principles of commercial law. So section 1 to 75, whenever it is about an immovable property and whenever it is about a movable property, these jurisdictions might differ. See, because whenever it is an immovable property, usually where the property is situated, that is the place where jurisdiction lies. So of course, cause of action is there, but then it may vary from different situations, or it may vary. Right? Any other question? Yes. No, well, to reply to that, yes, the invitation to offer and counter offer are very different. Invitation to offer is simply an invitation to treat, which is that I want to attract you so that आप मुझे offer दें. Counter offer is very different. Counter offer is like that in reply to an offer, what you say is another offer. यानी कि अगर किसी ने बोला 500, मैंने बोल दिया 400, तो मैंने एक और ऑफर कर दिया. So they are very different. They're entirely different. They're not the same. I hope that answers your question. If you have any further, what is the difference between invitation to offer and general offer? Uh, see, invitation to offer is no offer. That is the point. Period. Remember that. Invitation to offer is so that I want to attract people to offer. I am not offering myself. जब मैं एक चीज बोलता हूँ सेल, तो मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि मेरा ऑफर है, बट रादर आई वांट पीपल टू ऑफर, के लोग मुझे ऑफर करें. दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल इनविटेशन टू ऑफर. नाउ कमिंग टू the next part, that is a general offer. It is not the same because when general offers are there, a person, और general offers में होता क्या है कि जैसे भी डिस्कस्ड कार्ल वर्सेस कार्बोलिक स्मोक बॉल, आपको जाके नहीं, यानी कि जो मैन्युफैक्चरर उसको हर एक बंदे के साथ नहीं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करना पड़ता. उसने गुड अपना बाहर निकाल दिया, किसी ने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया, हो गया काम. राइट? सो दे आर डिफरेंट because since invitation to offer is not an offer in itself. Yes, any other question? Hello? Yes. Any other question? Okay. Thank you, Garima. And thanks to Tatva Legal as well as UILS AAP. It's a great initiative that you're doing. So thank you. Thank you. Mm. Yes, if you have any other questions, you may also post them in my Instagram page, that is Clause by Clause. You may post them there so that, we have a much informed discussion there. Thank you.